and olfactory portion. So the vestibule is this, the lining epithelium of your vestibule is the same as that of the skin. So the respiratory portion is the same as the rest of the respiratory system. It is a pseudostratified columnar ciliated. So it consists the two-third of the inferior two-third of the nasal cavity. And the olfactory region is, where can it be found? Upper one-third of the nasal cavity. And what is the epithelial lining of the olfactory region? Is still pseudostratified columnar ciliated. Now, it has been mentioned in your learning objective about the Schneiderian membrane. It cannot be found in your Ross as well as in Bloom. But generally, the Schneiderian membrane is a general term for the mucosa of the nasal cavity. It's a good thing to know. So we'll go now to the respiratory region of the nasal cavity. So it is lined by, as we discussed earlier, a pseudostratified columnar epithelium, which is composed of 5 cell types. What are these 5 cell types? Ciliated cells, the goblet, brush, basal, and what else? Pulchrity cells. So be sure to know the function of each cell types. So major characteristic of the respiratory region of the nasal cavity is the presence of the thick lamina propria, in which, what are these? There is a rich vascular network that serves to humidify the air that passes through the nose. And this is also the part that engorge during rhinitis. So are there sebaceous glands in the respiratory region of the nasal cavity? Where can it be found? Very good. Only in the vestibule. So we'll go now to the olfactory region of the nasal cavity. As we discussed earlier, it is composed of pseudostratified columnar ciliated, but in comparison to that of the respiratory region, there are no goblet cells. So what are the major types of cells that can be found in the olfactory region? What are these yellow cells? How about this one? So the olfactory cell is said to be a bipolar neuron. So it has a vestibule, olfactory vestibule in the apical part. It has how many cilia per vestibule? Again, how many? 5? It is mentioned in Ross. There are 10 to 23 cilia per vestibule. And how does it look like, or how is it arranged? Radial and parallel. Is it parallel? Perpendicular to the vestibule. Perpendicular to the vestibule. So radial in arrangement and perpendicular to the vestibule. At the basal portion, you can find the axon, and the axon extends and joins with other axons, forming the what nerve? Olfactory nerve. So what are these cells? What's the function of sustentacular cells? Metabolic and mechanical support of the olfactory cells. How about this one? What is this? The basal cell. So be sure to know the function of the basal cell. What is this structure? So that is the Bowman's gland. It is a branched tubulo-alveolar serous gland that delivers their proteinaceous secretions via the ducts into the olfactory surface. So another diagram of the olfactory region, just take note of the extension as well as the joining of the axons of the olfactory, each olfactory cell as it forms into olfactory bulb and then becoming the olfactory nerve or the cranial nerve 1. This is a microscopic representation of your olfactory region. What are these? This is the duct of the Bowman's gland. So take note that the olfactory duct extends, the duct of the olfactory, of the Bowman's gland extends to the epithelium. So next we will be discussing about the paranasal sinuses. What's the epithelial lining of the paranasal sinuses? So it is still pseudostratified columnar ciliated. What are the sinuses found in your face? What are the 4 sinuses? Frontal, maxillary, ethmoid, and sphenoid. So the paranasal sinuses has the same respiratory epithelium as the rest of the respiratory system with numerous goblet cells. So let's now go to the larynx. So this is the anatomical picture of your larynx. It is composed of how many cartilages?
9.
What are those? Which among those cartilages are elastic cartilage? Epiglottis and there's another one. Yes, the vocal process of the arytenoid. Only the epiglottis and the arytenoids are elastic cartilage. The rest are hyaline cartilage. So what is this structure? How about this one? Vocal fold? Is this a vocal fold? These are the arytenoids. How about this one? This is the true vocal cord. And above, you can find the false vocal cord. So this is the histologic appearance of your epiglottis. What is the function of your epiglottis? It prevents the So it is, as I said earlier, the cartilage is an elastic cartilage. It has glands. What kind of glands? Mucoserous glands. And what epithelial lining can you find in the epiglottis? So the free surface as well as the lingual surface of your epiglottis, you can find the stratified squamous epithelium. But as you go down to the laryngeal portion, you can find what epithelial lining? Very good. So why is it that your epiglottis is lined by stratified squamous? To protect from abrasion from
the food or the particles.
From abrasion from, it protects the airway from abrasion from rapid entry of air. So that's why it is stratified squamous epithelium. So you can, I think you already encountered this slide on your previous Histo laboratory. You can see the epithelial lining of your epiglottis as well as the your elastic cartilage. What is absent in this slide in the cartilage, in the elastic cartilage? What is absent? What can you find in the elastic cartilage? Your fatty degeneration. So we now go to the vocal cord. So the vocal cords are two folds of mucosa that projects into the lumen of the larynx. It is what epithelium? What is the lining epithelium of your vocal cords, your true vocal cords? Stratified squamous epithelium. Why? Still for protection. It protects the respiratory system from rapid entry of or movement of air. So it contains what is this? This is the vocalis muscle. Is it skeletal or smooth muscle? Very good. So this is the vocalis ligament. How can you differentiate the true from the false vocal cord? The false vocal cord does not have vocalis muscle. How about the epithelial lining? So the false vocal cord, in comparison to that of the true vocal cord, is lined by pseudostratified columnar ciliated. So this is another slide showing your vocal cord. This is the stratified squamous epithelium, the vocal ligament, and this is the vocalis muscle. So what identifies structure? What is this specimen? This is the larynx. So as I emphasized earlier, the laryngeal part of your epiglottis has the pseudostratified columnar ciliated, but the free portion or the lingual part of your epiglottis has the stratified squamous epithelium. So this is the junction between your pseudostratified columnar ciliated and stratified squamous epithelium. Take note that the hyaline cartilage is not visible in this slide. So after the larynx, we now go to the trachea. So this is the appearance of your trachea during your bronchoscopy. So what is the distinctive characteristic of your trachea? It has C-shaped cartilage. What's this? Is this skeletal or smooth?
Smooth.
What is this structure?
Tracheal.
It's the carina. It's where your trachea divides into your right and your left bronchi. So histologically, this is how your trachea appears. So the cartilage, how many cartilage are there in an adult human being? 9?
16 to 20.
Higher. 9 lang?
16 to
10
20.
centimeters long ba yung trachea?
16 to 20. Wow.
16?
Raise your hand.
So the C-shaped cartilages are arranged one on top of the other on the anterior portion of the trachea to prevent the airway from collapsing during expiration, because your expiration is you will be discussing that in your pre-show. So this is the another slide showing your trachea, the epithelial lining, which is pseudostratified columnar ciliated. You can find your blood vessels, your moderately dense connective tissue, as well as your hyaline cartilage in your adventitial layer. So what are the component cells of the tracheal epithelium? It is mainly composed of the ciliated cells. How many cilia are there in one ciliated cell? 250. Why is it like that? Because it serves as a mucociliary escalator. Another cell is your mucous cells, which lack the cilia, and what is being produced by the mucous cell? So the mucous cells increase in number during chronic inflammation or chronic irritation to protect the epithelial lining of your respiratory system. Another cells that can be found, the same as that of your respiratory portion of your nasal cavity, your basal as well as your brush cells, and the Purkinje cells. So what is, so this is the trachealis muscle. Is it skeletal or smooth muscle? Smooth muscle. In comparison to that of vocalis, which is skeletal muscle. So one of the characteristics of the trachea is that the C-shaped cartilage, at the free end of the C-shaped cartilage, there is a fibroelastic tissue as well as this smooth muscle, the trachealis muscle, that connects the free end portion of the C-shaped cartilage. Let's now go to the pulmonary tree or the bronchial tree. From your bronchi, as it branch out into your right main and left main, there are 16 generations or divisions before it reaches your terminal bronchioles. And from your respiratory bronchioles until you reach the alveolar sacs, there are additional 7 generations of branching. So all in all, there are from your bronchus down to your alveolar sacs, there are 23 generations of bronchi and bronchial branchings. Now, just an overview of your bronchial tree. The trachea would divide into your right main and the left main bronchus. So how many lobes are there in your right lung? 3. What are they?
Superior, middle, inferior.
Your upper, the middle, right middle lobe, and the right lower lobe. How about your left?
2.
There are 2. Left upper lobe and left lower lobe. What are the, how many subsegments are there in the right upper lobe? Right upper. 3. All in all, your right lobe has 10 subsegments. Namely, in your right upper, there are 3, your apical, posterior, and anterior subsegments. In comparison to that of your left, there are only 2, the anterior subsegment, and your apical and posterior is being fused into apico-posterior subsegment. So in your right, there is your right middle lobe, which has 2 subsegments, your medial and lateral subsegment. However, in your left, there is no such thing as left middle lobe. So instead, the superior or the left upper lobe has the lingular division, which is composed of 2 subsegments, the superior and the inferior subsegment of the lingula. So this is the representation of your right middle lobe, the lingular division. So in your right lower lobe, there are 5 subsegments, your superior or your apical subsegment, anterior, lateral, medial, and posterior. While on your left, there are only 4, your superior subsegment, anterior, lateral, and your medial and posterior is being fused into posteromedial subsegments. So all in all, there are 8 segments in the left and 10 segments on the right. This is very important because when you do your bronchoscopy, you have to identify all the segments as well as to identify which part or which subsegment your endobronchial lesion or mass is located. So let's now go to the intrapulmonary bronchus or the secondary bronchus. How is it differentiated with your primary bronchus? Smaller, what else? How about the cartilage? So what are the 5 layers of your intrapulmonary bronchus? Mucosa, which is composed of what? Epithelial lining?
Simple columnar.
Pseudostratified columnar ciliated. The muscularis mucosae is composed of a circular layer of smooth muscle. This is called as your what? There is a term. It is found in your laboratory manual. This is the what? Bracescens muscle. Yes. So after the muscularis mucosae, you have your submucosa, which is composed of loose connective tissue and glands, and you can find the discontinuous cartilage in comparison to that of your trachea, in which the trachea is C-shaped continuous cartilage. So you can find the discontinuous cartilage plates that becomes smaller as the diameter of the bronchus becomes smaller. And the 5th layer is the adventitial layer, in which it is composed of moderately dense connective tissue. This is another view of your bronchus, intrapulmonary bronchus, your epithelium, your hyaline cartilage, the discontinuous plate of hyaline cartilage, as well as your glands. Now, your bronchopulmonary segments, as I mentioned earlier, is further subdivided into pulmonary lobules, and each lobule is supplied by a bronchiole. So it is about 1 millimeter in diameter, without cartilage, and there are no glands in your bronchiole. That's one of the differentiating characteristic of your bronchiole from your bronchus. No cartilage and no glands. So the smooth muscle is relatively thick, which serves its function. What function of this muscle? What is the function of this muscle? Why do you have wheezing in asthma? So this muscle is responsible for the bronchoconstriction, which you can find in obstructive lung disease, which is, an example of that is your asthma and COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So this is also where your short-acting and long-acting beta agonists, such as your salbutamol, olodaterol, would take this action. So, ato siya sa smooth muscle of your bronchus as well as your bronchioles.
Renaissance muscle.
So, after it branches into the bronchiole, there is such thing as your pulmonary acini. What is this? What is a pulmonary acinus? It is composed of a terminal bronchiole plus your respiratory bronchioles. So in the terminal bronchiole, instead of the pseudostratified columnar ciliated, it now becomes what? Epithelium. Simple cuboidal. And what are these cells? Klaro kayo ng nurse. So what is the function of your Clara cells? It secretes what? surfactant? So you have to know what does it produce and what is the function of that material or material that Clara cells produce.
Sayang no, kung
Are there
sasabihin
doublet
sana
cells
medyo,
in your terminal
ano na, no?
bronchioles? Are there? So there are no goblet cells in your terminal bronchioles. Now, after it branches out, your terminal bronchiole, it will branches out into your respiratory bronchiole. So this is the first part of the bronchial tree that takes part in gas exchange. It is lined by what? Epithelium. Simple cuboidal. And distally, your Clara cells predominate. And there are thin-walled outpouchings that extend from the lumen of the respiratory bronchioles. What are these outpouchings? What are these? Alveoli. So your respiratory bronchiole would branch out into your alveolar duct, which are elongated airways in which the walls of your alveolar ducts are composed of basically your alveolar sacs. It's just formed into a duct, or it is a collection of alveoli which forms into a duct. This is now your alveolar duct. What about this? What is this?
Alveolar ducts in
Alveolar sac.
Anong
In between alveolar sacs, what are these? These structures.
sac? Pagdulo na. Sac na.
In between alveoli, what are these structures?
So,
Ano siya? Where your gas exchange happens. Alveolar septum. So this is a electromicrograph representation of your alveolar septum. This is your alveolar lumen. It is lined by what epithelium? What cells? What are the two types of alveolar lining? Two cells. So cell types of your alveolar lining. Type 1 hematocytes and type 2. Which is more more in number, type 1 or type 2?
type 2.
So it composed of, are you sure it's type 1?
Type 2.
Type 2 in number, but your type 1 hematocyte is extremely thin-walled, and it is 40% of the entire alveolar lining cells. However, it lines 95% of the alveoli because of its thinness. So your type 2 hematocyte is more thick, and it is about 60% of the total cells in your alveoli. However, it only lines 5% of your alveoli. It's because of its dome shape. So, what is the function of your type 2 hematocyte? Secretes what? What is the function of your surfactant? So it secretes surfactant, and it also serves as a progenitor cells of both type 1 and type 2. So these type 2 pneumatocytes become greater in number or increase in number during alveolar inflammation or alveolar disease or injury, such as in your acute respiratory distress syndrome. So it serves as a marker of injury to the alveoli.
Type 1 injury.
What is a dust cell? It is an alveolar macrophage. So it removes the inhaled particulate in the alveoli as well as diseased RBC from the septum. What is the significance of pore of con? It allows what? It allows collateral circulation. So what is its significance? In obstructive lung disease, or in area where in an area of the lung where there is atelectasis or collapse of the alveoli, the distal portion can still be aerated because of the pore of con. It's because it acts as a collateral circulation to the distal part, which has been obstructed from the proximal part. So even though the more proximal part is being obstructed, or there is an obstruction, there is still collateral circulation because of the pore of con. So I think that's the end of my correlate. In your laboratory, you should be able to draw and review or study the following: the nasal mucosa. You have to review the epiglottis, the larynx, the trachea, and you will be given a new slide, the lung, in which you should examine the bronchus as well as the bronchiole. So just a brief overview of what you will be expecting in your laboratory. You will be encountering the respiratory region of the nasal cavity. Take note of the mucosa, the layers, and the vascularity that I mentioned earlier. The epiglottis, the lining epithelium, the cartilage, and the glands, the larynx. Take note of the junction between your pseudostratified columnar ciliated and your stratified squamous epithelium,
So yung anak siya ang
the vascular layer as well as the cartilaginous layer,
hindi na.
as well as you have to identify, or you have to study the free end portion of the cartilaginous ring, where you have the trachealis muscle as well as the fibroelastic part. So for the lung, you have to identify your bronchus, intrapulmonary bronchus, with the presence of your discontinuous cartilage plate, the layers, the smooth muscle, as well as your bronchiole, and lastly, your alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs, and the alveoli. So that ends my correlate.
I love you.